Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with part 15, the ceremony of installation of Master of a Lodge, from the Freemason's Manual or Illustrations of Masonry by Jeremiah Howe. Chapter 15, the ceremony of installation of Master of a Lodge. All preferment among Masons is grounded upon real worth and personal merit only, that so the Lord may be well served, the brethren not put to shame, nor the royal craft despised. Therefore no master or warden is chosen by seniority, but for his merit. Ancient Charges. It is a prominent advantage of the popular form of government that the grounds of distinction and advancement being chiefly personal qualities, men are classed according to their individual abilities and merit. This is strikingly illustrated in the system of Freemasonry, which to a certain extent inculcates the doctrine of equality. But although each brother has equal pretensions to power, yet to every lodge there must of necessity be a head. This ruler is the master, to whom is entrusted for 1 year the entire responsibility of government. On the completion of his year of office, he falls into the ranks of the past masters, who may be considered a select council, assisting the master in the general control of the affairs and accounts of the lodge, and at all times exercising a vigilant care over its well-being. Thus, although the democratic principle is to a certain extent allowed, yet the most perfect equality of rights can never prevent the ascendancy of superior minds, displayed, according to the Masonic theory, in those members who have passed the ordeal of the chair. The Book of Constitutions declares, "The officers of a lodge are the master and his 2 wardens, with their assistants, the 2 deacons, inner guard, and tiler. There must also be a treasurer and secretary. A chaplain, master of the ceremonies, and stewards may be appointed. Every lodge shall annually elect its master and treasurer by ballot, such master having regularly served as warden of a warranted lodge for 1 year. And at the next meeting after his election, when the minutes are confirmed, he shall be duly installed in the chair according to ancient usage, after which he shall appoint his wardens and other officers except the treasurer. The tiler is to be chosen by the members of the lodge. All lodges have a fixed day for the installation, when more than ordinary exertions are made to do honor to the occasion. All the members generally endeavor to be present, and visitors from other lodges are invited. There must be at least 3 past masters present at an installation, and the brother who undertakes the performance of the ceremony, not necessarily a member of the lodge, ought to be well skilled in the craft and possess a thorough acquaintance with all the ceremonies. The lodge being opened in due form, the master-elect is presented by a past master of the lodge as duly elected for installation, his merit and services being his recommendation for the high office of a ruler in the craft. The installing master informs the master-elect that the choice of the brethren has been approved and confirmed, and imparts to him the necessary qualifications of a master, that he should be of good report, true and trusty, and be held in high estimation by the brethren, that he should be exemplary in conduct, easy in address, courteous in manner, but steady and firm in principle, that he must have been regularly initiated, passed and raised in the several degrees of Freemasonry, and have served the office of warden in a warranted lodge for 12 months, that he should be well skilled in the science, and able and willing to undertake the work. He should be well versed in the ancient charges and landmarks of the order. He must have been duly elected by ballot of the brethren in open lodge assembled, and presented before a board of installed masters, by whom the choice of the brethren must be approved." Brother Oliver says, "I am decidedly of opinion that much general knowledge is necessary to expand the mind and familiarize it with Masonic discussions and illustrations before a brother can be pronounced competent to undertake the arduous duty of governing a lodge. A master of the work ought to have nothing to learn. He should be fully qualified not only to instruct the younger brethren, but to resolve the doubts of those who are more advanced in Masonic knowledge, to reconcile apparent contradictions, to settle chronologies, and to elucidate obscure facts or mythic legends, as well as to answer the objections, and to render pointless the ridicule of our uninitiated adversaries. The power of a master in his lodge is absolute. He is the supreme arbiter on all questions of order so far as the meeting is concerned, nor can any appeal be made from his decision to that of the lodge. He is amenable for his conduct to the Grand Lodge alone. The master-elect, having in the presence of the lodge consented to undertake the office with all its responsibilities, the installing master directs the secretary to read the ancient charges and regulations from the Book of Constitutions, to each clause of which the future master gives his assent. 1. You agree to be a good man and true, and strictly to obey the moral law. 2. You are to be a peaceable subject, and cheerfully to conform to the laws of the country in which you reside. 3. You promise not to be concerned in plots or conspiracies against government, but patiently to submit to the decisions of the Supreme Legislature. 4. You agree to pay a proper respect to the civil magistrate, to work diligently, live creditably, and act honorably by all men. 5. You agree to hold in veneration the original rulers and patrons of the Order of Freemasonry, and their regular successors, supreme and subordinate, according to their stations, and to submit to the awards and resolutions of your brethren in General Lodge, convened in every case consistent with the constitutions of the Order. 6. You agree to avoid private piques and quarrels, and to guard against intemperance and excess. 7. You agree to be cautious in your carriage and behavior, courteous to your brethren, and faithful to your lodge. 8. You promise to respect genuine and true brethren, and to discountenance impostors and all dissenters from the original plan of Freemasonry. 9. You agree to promote the general good of society, to cultivate the social virtues, and to propagate the knowledge of the mystic art as far as your influence and ability can extend. 10. You promise to pay homage to the Grand Master for the time being, and to his officers when duly installed, and strictly to conform to every edict of the Grand Lodge. 11. You admit that it is not in the power of any man or body of men to make innovation in the body of Masonry. 12. You promise a regular attendance on the communications and committees of the Grand Lodge, upon receiving proper notice thereof, and to pay attention to all the duties of Freemasonry upon proper and convenient occasions. 13. You admit that no new lodge can be formed without permission of the Grand Master or his deputy, and that no countenance ought to be given to any irregular lodge, or to any person initiated therein, and that no public processions of Masons clothed with the badges of the Order can take place without the special license of the Grand Master or his deputy. 14. You admit that no person can regularly be made a Freemason or admitted a member of any lodge without previous notice and due inquiry into his character, and that no brother can be advanced to a higher degree except in strict conformity with the laws of the Grand Lodge. 15. You promise that no visitor shall be received into your lodge without due examination and producing proper vouchers of his having been initiated in a regular lodge. At the conclusion, the installing officer addresses the master-elect as follows. Do you submit to and promise to support these charges and regulations as masters have done in all ages? Upon his answering in the affirmative, the ceremony of installation proceeds. He is then required by solemn obligation to accept the office and to govern his lodge according to the laws of the Grand Lodge of England, neither himself to introduce nor to allow in others any deviation from the ancient usages and landmarks of the Order, but, on the contrary, to preserve the same in their integrity, and in all respects faithfully to discharge his duties as a ruler. This obligation is undertaken for 1 year, or until a new master shall have been duly elected and installed in his stead. The lodge is then opened in the superior degree, and all, except installed masters, having retired, a board of installed masters is declared, and the ceremony of installation proceeds, and on this solemn occasion the divine aid is thus invoked. Almighty, eternal, and most high God, vouchsafe thine aid to this our solemn rite, and grant that the worthy and distinguished brother who is now about to be numbered amongst the rulers of the craft may be endowed with wisdom to comprehend, judgment to define, and firmness to enforce obedience to thy law. Sanctify him with thy grace, strengthen him with thy power, and enrich his mind with genuine knowledge, that he may be enabled to enlighten the brethren, and consecrate our meetings to the honor and glory of thy most holy name. So mote it be. The master is next invested with the badge of a past master, the highest honor in the power of the lodge to bestow, and also with the jewel of the master of the lodge. This jewel represents the square, Because as the square is employed by operative masons to fit and adjust the stones of a building that all the parts may properly agree, so the master of the lodge is admonished by the symbolic meaning of the square upon his breast to preserve that moral deportment among the members of his lodge which should ever characterize good masons, and to exert his authority to prevent any ill feeling or angry discussion arising to impair the harmony of their meetings. Next is presented to him the gavel, which is also called the Hiram, because as Solomon controlled and directed the workmen in the temple by the assistance of Hiram the builder, so does the master preserve order in the lodge by the aid of the gavel. The true form of the gavel is that of a stonemason's hammer. It is to be made with a cutting edge that it may be used to break off the corners of rough stones, an operation which could never be effected by the common hammer or mallet. It derives its name from its shape, that of the old gable or gavel end of a house. The distinction between this implement and the setting maul is understood by every master mason. The master is then entrusted with the warrant of the lodge, which is committed to his keeping during his period of office, which cannot extend beyond 2 years in succession, nor can the same brother be master of more than one lodge at the same time. He has then his attention directed to the various implements of the profession, emblematical of our conduct in life, and upon this occasion they are carefully enumerated. The volume of the sacred law, that great light in masonry, will guide you to all truth. It will direct your path to the temple of happiness and point out to you the whole duty of man. The square teaches us to regulate our actions by rule and line and to harmonize our conduct by the principles of morality and virtue. The compass teaches us to limit our desires in every station, that rising to eminence by merit we may live respected and die regretted. Finally, to the worshipful master are presented the Book of Constitutions as his guide at all times in cases of difficulty, and the bylaws of the lodge, which he is required to cause to be read once in the year so that none may plead ignorance of their contents. The worshipful master then invests his immediate past master, who acts as his assistant in his absence as well as in his presence. It being the established custom when the master is unable to be present that his immediate predecessor should preside, after being saluted as an installed master with grand honors, and also in token of respect as a master of arts and sciences, the board of installed masters is closed. The brethren below the chair are then admitted, master masons first, the others in succession, the installing master proclaiming the worshipful brother in the east, west, and south as duly installed. The new master enters immediately on the duties of his office by appointing his officers, who are separately conducted to the pedestal, generally by the installing brother. The worshipful master then invests each newly appointed brother with the collar and jewel of his office in the following form. Brother CD, I appoint you senior warden of the lodge, and invest you with the ensign of your office, the level, which will remind you, while presiding over the labors of the lodge, that it is your duty to see that every brother meets upon the level, and that the principle of equality is preserved during the work, without which harmony, the chief support of our institution, cannot be preserved. Your regular attendance on our stated meetings is essentially necessary, as in my absence you may be called to rule the lodge, and in my presence to assist me in its government. I firmly rely on your knowledge of the art and attachment to the lodge for the faithful discharge of the duties of the office. Brother EF, I appoint you junior warden of the lodge and invest you with the collar and jewel of office. That jewel, the plum rule, being an emblem of uprightness and integrity, will teach you the peculiar correctness of conduct that is expected from you, particularly in the introduction of visitors. To you is committed the superintendence of the brethren during the hours of refreshment. It is, therefore, indispensably necessary that you should not only be temperate and discreet in the indulgence of your own inclinations, but carefully note that none others be suffered to convert the purposes of refreshment into intemperance and excess. Your regular attendance is particularly requested, and I have no doubt that you will faithfully execute every duty. The treasurer who has been elected by the lodge is next invested with the jewel of his office, the worshipful master thus addressing him. Brother GH, I have the pleasure of investing you with the jewel of the office to which you have been elected by the brethren, and I'm sure you will do honor to their selection. The secretary is then presented and invested, the worshipful master thus addressing him. I appoint you, Brother J.K., Secretary of the Lodge. It is your province to record the minutes and issue the summonses for our meetings. Your good inclinations to Masonry and the Lodge will no doubt induce you to discharge the duties of the office with fidelity, and by so doing you will merit the esteem and applause of the brethren. The deacons are then named and invested, the master addressing them as follows. Brothers L.M. and N.O., I appoint you deacons of the Lodge. It is your province to attend on the master and assist the wardens in the active duties of the Lodge, such as the reception of candidates in the different degrees and in the immediate practice of our rites. The next officer appointed is the inner guard, whom the master addresses thus. Brother P., I appoint you inner guard of the Lodge. Your duty is to admit Masons on proof, to receive candidates in due form, and to obey the commands of the junior warden. The tiler is invested, and with his instrument of office the master gives him a short charge on his duties. The investiture of officers being completed, the installing master addresses the master, wardens, and brethren somewhat to the following effect. Worshipful master, the brethren having unanimously elevated you to the chair, you cannot be insensible of the obligations which devolve on you as their head, nor of your responsibility for the faithful discharge of the important duties annexed to the appointment. The honor, reputation, and usefulness of your lodge will materially depend on the skill and assiduity with which you manage its concerns, whilst the happiness of its members will be generally promoted in proportion to the zeal and ability with which you propagate the genuine principles of our institution. For a pattern of imitation, consider the great luminary of nature, which rising in the east regularly diffuses light and luster to all within its circle. In like manner, it is your province to spread and communicate light and instruction to the brethren of your lodge. Forcibly impress on them the dignity and high importance of Masonry, and seriously admonish them never to disgrace it. Charge them to practice out of the lodge those duties they are taught within it, and by amiable, discreet, and virtuous conduct convince mankind of the goodness of the institution, so that when a person is said to be a member of it, the world may know that he is one to whom the burthened heart may pour forth its sorrows, to whom distress may prefer its suit, whose head is guided by justice, and whose heart is expanded by benevolence. In short, by a diligent observance of the bylaws of your lodge, the constitutions of Masonry, and above all the volume of sacred law which is given as a rule and guide of your faith, you will acquit yourself with honor and reputation, and lay up a crown of rejoicing, which will continue when time shall be no more. Brother wardens, you are too well acquainted with the principles of our institution to warrant any distrust that you will be found wanting in the discharge of your respective duties. Suffice it to say that what you have seen praiseworthy in others, you should carefully imitate. What in others may appear defective, you should yourselves amend. You should be examples of good order and regularity, for it is only by a due regard to the laws in your own conduct that you can expect obedience to them from others. You are assiduously to assist the master in the discharge of his trust, diffusing light and imparting knowledge to all whom he shall place under your care. In the absence of the master, you may succeed to higher duties. Your requirements, therefore, must be such as that the brethren never suffer for want of proper instruction. From the spirit which you have hitherto evinced, I entertain no doubt that your future conduct will be such as to merit the applause of the brethren and the testimony of a good conscience. Brethren, such is the nature of our institution that some must of necessity rule and teach, so others must of course learn to submit and obey. Humility in both is an essential duty. The officers who are appointed to govern your lodge are sufficiently conversant with the rules of propriety and the laws of the institution to avoid exceeding the powers with which they are entrusted, and you are of too generous a nature to envy their preferment. I trust, therefore, you will have but one aim, to please each other, meeting in the grand design of being happy and conferring happiness. Finally, my brethren, as this association has been formed and perfected in such unanimity and concord, in which we greatly rejoice, so may it long continue and remain a monument of wisdom, strength, and beauty, which ages cannot wither, nor adversity decay. May you long enjoy every satisfaction and delight which disinterested friendship can afford. May kindness and brotherly affection distinguish your conduct as men and Masons. Within these peaceful walls, may your children's children celebrate with joy and gratitude the annual recurrence of this auspicious solemnity. And may the tenets of our order be transmitted through your lodge from generation to generation. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.